Hello, and welcome back to ArcatiumTCG. I am your host Peter, and today we are continuing with the Exploring Starter Deck series. Just a quick refresher, this series aims to show off the starter decks that Porktopus introduced Arcatium to my friends and I with. The first two videos are already out, along with a battle video pitting the two starter decks against each other. Links in the description. With that out of the way, let's get into the video. The starter deck I have for you guys is the Colin starter deck. The main elements in this deck are life and wind, but there are also some water and lightning synergies mixed in. As always, let me give you a quick summary of the elements' playstyles before jumping in. Wind, the craftiest element of the bunch, even more so than Dark, and that's saying something considering Dark's whole playstyle is messing with your opponent. Wind, while not necessarily always messing with your opponent, though it does do that a bit too, messes with your wind condition. To explain this, we have to explain a crucial game mechanic first. You see, if you've seen our rule video and our battle video, you may have been wondering, couldn't you technically stall forever by not putting any sorcerers onto the field? Because then your opponent would not have any sorcerers to attack and will have no ways of attaining enough void zones to win. To that, you would be right. Except Porktopus anticipated this, after we all pointed it out to him in the earliest playtests of the game. Basically, each player has 20 life points, LP, that they start the game with. If you do not control any sorcerers, your opponent can attack those LP directly, in what is called a direct attack. If your LP are ever reduced to 0, then regardless of how many void zones you have, you still lose the match. Wind exploits this. Instead of aiming to win by voiding all 4 of your opponent's zones, Wind tries to win by LP. Its spells focus on inflicting direct damage to them. You could be up in void zones 3-0 against a Wind deck and still lose. Let's talk about life now. Life can be a very passive, stally element. It focuses on protecting its weaker sorcerers and reusing sorcerers from your discard pile, slowly building advantage before reviving some heavy hitters to make one big push for the win. In this element, you will find many spells focused on stopping your opponent from damaging your sorcerers, and spells that let you reuse sorcerers long gone. In this element, no losses are permanent. Now that you know the basics of the elements in the deck, let's hop into showing you the cards. The level 1 sorcerers in this deck are as follows: Colin, Sparkling Colin, and Downcast Colin. Now, one thing you may notice about these cards is that they all seem to fill a certain role. Sparkling Colin, with his 3 power and 4 health, is obviously the main attacker of the level 1 Colin cards. Downcast Colin, having 8 health, is a tank, meant to stall until you can transform him. And Colin, well, he is really cute. They all have the same elements of wind, life, water, and lightning, meaning that they are interchangeable when it comes to using them to transform into your level 2 sorcerers in this deck.
Water, earth, fire, air.
Speaking of the level 2s, the level 2 sorcerers in this deck are Colin Twins and Sparking Colin. Now these guys are a little different to the level 2s you are used to seeing in starter decks. They do not have the same elements as each other. Colin Twins has wind, life, and water, while Sparking Colin has wind, life, and lightning. This means that although all the level 1 sorcerers can go into both of them, and both of them can go into this deck's level 3, there are certain spells that one of them will be able to cast, but not the other. This makes choosing the right level 2 to transform into at the right time far more important than any of the other starter decks. But we'll get to that part later. For now, let's mention the main man of this house, the level 3. Alright, please welcome the boy, the one and only Colin Cloudtastrophe. Yeah, not really much to say about him. He has the same stats as the other starter deck level 3s, and his elements are wind and life. I guess the most important thing is that he is so adorable. He will haunt you in your dreams and sleep forever and ever and ever. But aside from that, he isn't really anything too special. So let's move on to the really fun stuff. Spells! The first wind spell I want to mention is this level 1 spell called Air Slashes. This card lets you reveal the top card of your opponent's deck for both of you to see. And then if it is a sorcerer, you get to do damage to your opponent's LP equal to that sorcerer's power. The only downside is that then the opponent gets to add that sorcerer to their hand. If the revealed card is not a sorcerer, then nothing happens. Just put it back face down and continue with your turn. So, let's break this down with an example. Let's say I have my Colin, right? Cast Air Slashes. The first thing that I would want to do is reveal my opponent's top card of their deck. Oh wow, that is a Sparking Colin. That means that now my opponent's LP are reduced by 5 because Sparking Colin has 5 power, as you can see here. However, now my opponent gets to add that Sparking Colin to their hand. If that Sparking Colin had been another copy of Air Slashes, for instance, then nothing would have happened. I hope that makes sense. This card helps you get damage on the opponent, but comes with the risk of nothing happening at all, and you're just wasting spell energy, or giving your opponent a free card if you do get damage on their LP. The next spell I want to talk about is a level 2 spell called Swift Wings. This spell lets you choose one sorcerer on your field. If that sorcerer attacks this turn, you can choose to make it attack your opponent's LP directly. It is a very simple spell with devastating consequences. Let's say you choose Sparking Colin, right, for it. That's 5 damage on your opponent's LP. They only have 20 to start with. This means that in one turn, you've gotten 1/4 of the way to winning. The last wind spell to discuss is a level 3, Tornadoes. This spell will do damage to your opponent's LP equal to the total level of all the sorcerers on their field. So, to give you an example, let's say I cast this card with Colin Cloudtastrophe, right? While my opponent had a Sparking Colin and Colin twins on the field. Well, both Sparking Colin and Colin twins are level 2s, so if we add their levels together, we get 4. Therefore, Tornadoes would deal 4 damage to their LP. This spell can be devastating if your opponent had something like 3 level 3s on the field, because that would be almost half of their LP gone in an instant. The other primary element of the spells in this deck, as mentioned previously, is life. The level 1 life spell, New Life, is extremely simple. It just lets you retrieve one level 1 sorcerer. Remember, retrieve means add from your discard to your hand. So basically, this card lets you add one of your level 1 sorcerers from your discard to your hand. This helps you recycle one of your level 1 sorcerers, meaning that you can keep less of them in your deck, while an average deck would probably run about 6 of them. This spell allows you to get away only running 4, without tanking your deck's consistency too much. The level 2 life spell is called Holy Staff. This card is an attachment that reads, your opponent cannot attack sorcerers with a lower level than the attached sorcerer. To clarify, if I have my Colin twins cast this spell, attachment, and attach it to themselves, then my opponent would not be able to attack sorcerers that were lower than level 2, meaning that my level 1s would be safe. If this was attached to my Colin Cloudtastrophe, on the other hand, then not only would my opponent not be able to attack level 1s, but they wouldn't be able to attack level 2s either. This can let you build a real army while blocking your opponent from doing the same. This synergizes with Wind very well too, because Wind wants to play it slow and do damage to your opponent's LP, not voiding their sorcerers. All in all, a very powerful spell. The final life spell in this deck is a level 3 called Second Chance. This spell lets you invoke a sorcerer from your discard to an empty zone on your field. Remember, if a spell says invoke, that means you get to put the sorcerer down no matter its level. Just follow the directions and restrictions on the spell itself. On this one, the only condition after you've cast it is that you invoke it to an empty zone. Also remember that invoking does not use your once per turn higher, so this spell basically lets you play any of your discarded sorcerers again, for the low price of only 3 spell energy, probably one of the strongest spells in the game. Aside from the wind and life spells, this deck also uses an assortment of random other spells that its sorcerers can cast. The first example is this level 2 neutral spell called Gold on the Road. It just lets you draw 2 cards. Very simple and straight to the point, but an important consistency tool in this deck. The next spell is a level 1 lightning attachment called Zap Dagger. Now you may remember this card from our Inferknight deck profile video, which you should watch after you're done with this video. This spell is lightning, so the Infernists can cast it no problem. Just be careful using it with the Collins though. The level 3 Colin is only wind and life, meaning that he cannot cast lightning spells like this one. Same with Colin twins, they are only wind, life, and water. Your choices to cast this card will be Sparking Colin and all of your level 1 Colin cards. The final card that we need to talk about is a level 1 water attachment called Ghost Net. This card simply reduces the attached sorcerer's power by 2. Remember, the attachments can be attached to your opponent's sorcerer as well as your own, and that is what this card is meant to be used for. It does, however, have the same problem that Zap Dagger has, only being castable by Colin twins and your level 1 Colin cards in this deck. It is well worth the rough synergy though, because this card can single-handedly shut down a threatening high-level sorcerer, turning a roaring lion into a little purring kitty. Anyways, my goal with this deck is one of 2 things. I can either stall out my opponent until I get rid of all of their life points. My other strategy would be to get a Colin Catastrophe set up with a Holy Staff on it, and then use Second Chance to revive my Sparking Colin for free. Then I have a Sparking Colin who cannot be attacked due to him being a lower level than Catastrophe, which has Holy Staff on it. I will be able to dish out insane damage with my Sparking Colin without my opponent being able to respond very much. Ultimately, this should allow me to get 4 Void Zones on him before my hold is broken. Alright, that was the deck profile for this Colin starter deck. Like if you liked, dislike if you didn't, but subscribe either way. Also, make sure to leave a comment telling us your favorite Colin sorcerer. I've been your host Peter, and this is ArcatiumTCG. Until next time, my friends.